That's me, yes. Leave it there for a moment. A lot of things have happened in the last 2 days. Let's see, the NBA has canceled their season. What's that?
All sports, MLB, NHL.
They're canceled, and the NCAA really didn't want to cancel their March conference because they bring in about $1 billion. And so they're like, okay, we'll just not have anyone show up except players, and then, or like our team in the country said, no, we're not going to show up, and the Dukes are not going to show up, and the companies are not going to show up. So, and then Tuesday, the president of the university said, we're not. In fact, they have until spring break. And then this afternoon, it's like, no, we changed our mind. Tomorrow is the last day to open classes. And so expect a lot of chaos because most faculty haven't thought about this, including you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yep.
and so,
That's what I've been thinking about this whole day.
right, how am I going to do this?
Especially that midterm.
And the department is, the university is in this panic mode of how do we, which classes have which exams, and can you move them offline or not, and blah, blah, blah. And so everyone needs to have a good attitude because there's definitely going to be a lot of rough spots. I guess the good news is just think of the English department, or the history department, culture department. Do the faculty there know what to do? Probably not. Some might, that's right. So, what I'll be doing starting next week is I will be lecturing at the regular time. There is a Zoom class, Zoom meeting, so students can join. I spent a fair amount of time yesterday trying to figure out how to do that. Particularly if I want to show slides, right? It turns out that if you use PowerPoint for Keynote, and you get multiple monitors, well, I've tried 2 monitors. They both programs want to take up both monitors. I'm going to show you this slideshow here, and I'm going to show you preview here. Like, no, I really want to see the Zoom, right? And so I finally figured out what I can do is, come on, wake up. Is I can, oops, play. I can play the slide on my iPad and Zoom will connect to it. And the interesting thing is now, I can write on it. Yes. There's some other things which are slightly irritating, but campus is also says that office hours should go online. There's probably some other issues, right? So what I'm planning on doing is basically the same thing as using Zoom, and publishing, okay, these are the hours during office hours, here's the Zoom ID. I've also used passwords because, well, I mean, we've all had spam sent everywhere, so okay. So the password for this course is always going to be CS696 or something. It's not going to be that hard to remember, right? What I haven't figured out is I might want to change office hours a little bit, because right now I sit in my office from like 3 o'clock until 10 o'clock here, and I lecture for 15 minutes, and I walk through the house. So if I'm doing this all online, it means I'm sitting in the same spot for well, from like 3 o'clock until 8:30, right? Which is a bit much. The other problem is, which I'm worried about, is if I'm supposed to take my classes online, upload online, if I do that from my office, and students know my office, they're going to show up there, right? And they'll know I'm there from like 3 o'clock until 8:30. So they're going to show up. I mean, like, what do? Like, close the door, don't go banging on the door? And,
Oh, yeah, we will do that. No shame.
yeah, but what happens, right? You're a national student, and you got this issue to deal with, right? Otherwise, you're going to get deported, and so at least, what's that? So initially, I won't be doing it in my office. Just train students, I'm not going to be there. I haven't quite figured out whether I should just have, what I do now is just like, here's a block of time on your office hours, and any student in any class, my classes can contact me, any guys can contact me. Or I should say, well, you guys get this hour, and you guys get this hour, and the only thing we said is way from $0. It's definitely going to be interesting time. And the chaos is not going to be into the central state. Almost every hour there's another school, as you know, to take off classes online. And none of the schools are prepared to do this at all. You found out Tuesday afternoon, right? And no one said, here's what you do. They said, do it. And oh, by the way, you can go to this, class and tell you what to do, but you know that it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Right. Use Zoom, okay. How do you Zoom? Well,
Google it.
right.
Yeah. I thought the plan was next week's like completely canceled so that everyone, the teachers can learn how to use the online systems, and then
Could be, I don't know, no idea. I mean,
Yeah, so basically the email said that next week is on pause. So anyone who's already set up fully online can continue teaching, but anyone who's not set up yet could use that week to transition to fully online. That's why I read the email.
I didn't get the original email. I got a one-line email from the chairman that says, oh, by the way,
Oh, wow.
the president said, tomorrow is the last day for, okay, fine. I mean, I was planning that anyway, so.
Yeah.
But if I had known,
Yeah,
it would give me a week off. I would have said, oh, no, I'm gonna teach next week, and I get the week off, right?
Yeah, this is-
You're way too smart.
What's that?
You're way too smart.
you're ahead of me.
Yeah.
The curse.
I'll read it later.
Email. I was looking at the email.
Oh.
But
I don't know what to do with offsides. If you're telling me that, right? But it's like, Minecraft told me that I will have offsides. Alrighty.
Well, actually, once I got the email on Thursday or Tuesday, first thing I did is I asked the chairman, what about office hours?
Yeah.
Because if the goal is to not have students congregating, right? And so Wednesday morning, the college had a meeting with all the chairs, and so she asked these questions that people were asking her, and the answer came back to the regular faculty saying, well, they want office hours to go online too. Okay, fine. I also did ask for you international students graduating. I did ask, are they going to cancel the graduation ceremony? And the answer is, they don't know.
That's what they said.
Well, May 20th is way too late.
Yeah.
Or March 20th.
But even March 20th is, I don't know. A few Indian students always want the parents want to come, right? And of course that involves the visa and their tickets.
Quarantine situation.
And that's like,
14 days.
Yeah.
so I'm assuming they'll cancel it. Well, the situation has changed a lot, but many years ago, I had a TA who did try having online office hours, but then it was mainly chat, not video. And the response was, never do that.
That's good enough, at least.
The reason is like when you have got physical office hours, there's a door, there's a line, one person walks in or a group walks in, they all the same question, and then you're dealing with one person, right? In a chat situation, like you got 10 people and 5 of them are trying to chat at the same time. And then you're getting this, right? And then how do you organize that, right? It also depends upon the level of the class, right? My situation can be a lot easier than yours. Right? You've got graduate students, right? We've all gone through the games, but we know that it's take a turn and we'll figure it out. You're dealing with
A bunch of kids who.
And also, with Zoom, right? I can share my screen. And if you're asking a question about assignment, you can say, here's what I've done, right? So you can share your screen, so I can see your screen. And you should all be computer literate enough to eventually figure that out. One of 7 students, 1 of 8 students. Oh,
So I have to remind people not to use Internet Explorer.
right.
I come across that a lot, actually. Like
Still do?
a lot. A lot of kids still use Internet Explorer, and they're trying to understand why you use something like Zyclix, why it's not working, or the browser is really bad. You should use any other browser.
Right. Anyone you want.
Yeah, just not that one. And they're like, oh, really? Like which one? I'm like, well, there's one called Google. Google Chrome, actually.
Right.
You should use that one. I'm like, oh, okay. So, I mean,
Technical documents and then those posts of like.
please never use Internet Explorer.
Also, I was wondering, sir, I know you have the portal and discussion thing on there. So it's easier for you. You you could like have possible threads of like certain subjects. You know, okay, maybe just like maybe one would be like installation issues.
Right.
One would be like, okay, you're starting off the assignment, like you understand what it is, but it's like you just can't meet the you know.
Yeah, the wiki I use, I assume that students realize they can create their own, they can create a page.
That way we can congregate towards one
So you can,
thing. And
if you want a separate topic, you can create your own page and create a link to it and put it on the main page.
So I just tried to enter the Zoom thing, and it says, please wait, the meeting host will let you in.
oh,
Yeah.
Manage participants.
Yeah, so that's one reason why the problem with having PowerPoint take over entire, you don't have that, right? And also the problem with doing it in a class with physical people is like, I can't be both places, right? And so I need different screen, manage participants, admit, right? And then of course, what you do is you turn your volume up really loud, and so we get feedback loop, right? And
I turned that off.
oh, you can mute all. That's good. You can mute.
I can go to more, yeah.
Yeah, can you control like all of their controls, like kill their video if you wanted, kill their.
So when I set up the meeting, I can specify whether I allow them to do video or not. You know, so I can, you know, again, there's mutes, right? So there's various things I can do, right? And now if people are actually doing the video, then you start getting, you know, their videos. And so yeah, we'll need to work out a protocol for if you're connecting during the lecture, if you want to ask questions, how do you get my attention? And I use Zoom for interviews, and so then it's like, okay, there's like 3 people on the screen, right? And then it's like, okay, that's easier. And also what tends to happen is you can set it up so that whoever starts talking, right, the screen goes to there.
But I'm not about to do that with 44 people.
Yeah, that's typically the problem, right? Because then it becomes chaos, because then you just, anyone makes a noise and it goes there. And
Sorry, that's why I was laughing. I did think it was LOL what?
right. This will be happening across all campus, right? I don't have video.
Yeah. I think I know. Just the only thing I'm struggling with. I've been doing that in a couple of days, so I don't know what I'll do, but yeah, the only thing I'm struggling with right now is box hours and how to do a midterm.
Yeah. Now, back on to regular subjects. We're finally coming across issues that come up all the time doing data science, right? So on this assignment, I did not. Typically, in courses at this level, I don't sit down and do what you do, is think of problems, solve the problems. I know exactly how it's going to work out, right? Because it's not a freshman level class; it's a grad level course. So I basically pick a problem and ask questions about it, and I know there's going to be issues that are going to arise that I haven't thought about, and I don't worry about that because it's a graduate level course, right? And so in this case, it's like, okay, this is great because there are problems with the data set, right? And then the question is, in general, how do we deal with that, right? And so let's see if we can come up with all the problems so far. One is sometimes the column names are capitalized or not capitalized, right? Well, then of course, what do? Well, we have to find, and then maybe we can convert them all to lowercase somehow or uppercase, right? So that when we merge it together, they get merged. Right, so that's one problem. Another problem is that apparently in 2019, or sometime during that year, they changed how they gathered the data, right? So prior to that time, there was a pickup latitude and pickup longitude, right? And drop off latitude, right? Sometime in 2019, they switched over to pickup zone and drop zone, right? And now the question is, what do we do with that? Well, the first question is, what can we do with it, right? And so one question is it possible to convert that pickup zone and drop-off zone to latitude and longitude? But that question also have to ask, well, how big is a pickup zone, right? If it's 5 block by 5 blocks, then you're going to get a lot of pickups and drop-offs in the same zone. And so computing distance is not going to be accurate. Right? So how can we determine that, right? And again, each time you come across one of these issues, it's an entirely new puzzle you have to solve, right? So it's not like, here are the rules you follow. So one thing is to try and find some database which tells you what are the pickup zones for New York City. But of course, we're talking about a private company, right? It's not clear that New York City has defined pickup zones. It's probably a company pickup zone, right? Given that this might be highly unionized, it could be a city zone, but who knows, right? That's investigation, so that may or may not lead somewhere. Also, the data also points to shape files, right? With a shape file is just a file at the, well, you're taking special database, right?
Yeah, we're learning about that.
So it's just a file which gives you the shape of, some region, right? And then of course you can have the right software, you can read that shape file, look at it. So what I did before class when the students said was something simpler. And now, what do I have to do? Oh, this is too confusing. Okay. I want to do this. And now what I want to do is, Oh, not keynote. I want numbers. Which one do I want? I wasn't able to get as organized as I wanted. It looks like I want this one. Share this one. And the problem is now I don't have my 2 monitors. So what I did is I loaded one of the files up, and now we're getting the 2 pick up and drop off. Okay, I know, go away. And I sorted it by trip distance. And the first troubling thing is, you can see this well enough back there in the back row. And then, okay, well, I can't, it's over here now. Having a minus trip distance tells you something, right? I mean, they're not driving backwards, right? So there's something wrong with this data. It could be, I mean, how are they computing it, because those are 2 different locations, and so that should be a positive number instead of a negative number. And then I'm looking at, okay, here's drop-off zone 7, and okay, pick up and drop off the same zone. Yep, that makes sense. It's going to be distance 0. But now there's zone 129, which has distance 0. Well, that could be, well, maybe if they're right next to each other, right? But then there's 179. So now we got 2 next to each other, 223. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we got 8 zones next to zone 7 that give you a 0 distance. So the distance, this data is not very reliable. Not,
The data is usually never clean.
the data is never clean, right?
There's always stuff.
There's always stuff, right? And that's one of the important lessons is the data is, I mean, look at, these are taxi drivers, right? And there's probably hundreds of them. Are they all going to do everything correctly? Not necessarily. One would assume that, you know, they've got the start and stop, you know, right, and that should be what's recording everything. And there was obviously some change in how they're collecting data. So this, you know, this data is somewhat suspect, right? And so then you have to ask the question, is it going to be worthwhile trying to look up the latitude and longitude for each of the pickup zones and drop-off zones, for finding how large they are, or not, right? And the answer to that question is going to vary depending on what you're trying to accomplish, right? And what's the goal of this assignment? What did I say at the top of the assignment, the goal? And so buried in the details, right? You can really figure out what we're trying to achieve. Anyone?
To get it done.
So you can hear the performance.
The performance, right? Somebody put it right. 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 So So we're not doing this to help the green tech company to understand the data, right? It's a data set to do some computation so we can contrast it across different platforms. And one of the reasons for computing that arc distance is that it's computationally intense, right? You have to get to latitude and longitude and do all these crazy mathematical computations. So in that context, you want to then start reading shape files to find latitude and longitude for pick up and drop off locations. Right? But these types of problems are always going to occur unless you're given someone else who's cleaned the data set for you and hand it to you on a silver platter, right? And you know, it's often, I mean, at the 107 level, one level you do that, right? It's like everything's clean, nice. It's like you go do it and they still struggle and can't figure out why. You made it so simple for them. And one of the things all students have to understand is by the time they graduate, all the training wheels are gone, right? And it takes them a while to figure that out. And they're like, what? And you expect me to do this? Yeah, we do. I'm trying to think of all the other questions and the question about different column names, right? And also, once we understand what sort of questions we're asking, what columns do we need, right? And then one student intentionally mentioned something about running out of memory. Right, that's another issue that's going to come up right at times. And then of course it depends upon how much memory your machine has, how big your data set is, what you're doing. And you also have to worry about how much memory is being configured for the system to be running at that time, right? I know when you run Java has default memory allocations that you can change to increase the size to avoid that. But you're running Python, you're running Java. So do we have to trying to create this one file? Can we do it all in memory and then write it out, or do we have to read in peace and write it out and then append to that file to make sure we don't? And that's, you know, one of the purposes of this HEF5, right, is to allow programs to, you know, intelligently swap parts of data set in and around to avoid running out of memory or staging like crazy. Any other questions? Um, well, I've lost track exactly how far we got. And also, I didn't want to talk about using EWS yet because people will get confused. So I'll postpone that discussion. Okay, new share. Is connected. Okay. Now again, we need to like that, move this out of the way. We'll see how this goes. Okay. This is interesting. Some sort of state I haven't been in before. And go full screen. No, we're at computer science department, right? So I came across, well, there's this movement now which is going on for actually like 20 years. More of the Agile software development. There's various, methodologies that people talk about. And basically, it was a reaction to software development. People saying, "Oh, we should be top down." And so first you do all your analysis, figure out what we do, and then we spend a lot of time designing what we're going to build, and then we do that, and then so you start building it. And that process had some problems in that. One, it's hard to know exactly what people want. So often when you build software when they build what you say they want, and you show it to them, they go, but can you, we don't need that, we don't need that, but can you add this? And also the turnaround time is difficult because people want it faster, right? So this movement is against that design. Okay, this, don't design everything in front because you can change, people are going to change their mind by the time they get done anyway. Right, and so you want to respond to a change, right? So you sit down and create, here's the features you want, and you figure out what's more important features, and then you'll have little small sprints. Okay, we're going to work on this feature, we're breaking stories, and right, and then this sprint we get the story and so running, and then we can reevaluate, right? And of course, what happened is people said, "Oh, this is great," and then you start hacking away. And of course, the problem is you need to have, right? So they want to be able to do this, right? Get customer review satisfaction early on, and welcome changes, and you deliver. You don't wait 13 months to say, here's your thing, right? And find out that no, we don't want that. Right. A lot of companies don't trust their developers, right? And of course, we're going against that now, right? It's like we're going all online. Right, so it's like we're trying to come up with, you know, new methodology, new way of working. There are problems with this that, you know, often companies want to know what's going to cost, and like, well, it depends on how many changes you want, right? And if you've worked as a developer for any length of time, you realize there's a problem. Like, can't you just work 70 hours this week, and next week too? This one is important because engineers like to look, we like complicated things, right? They're interesting. And so it's hard, like, okay, now we're just going to build something simple and make it work. And let's see, the Conway has this saying that the software architecture reflects the organization of the company, right? This, I mean, you divide your organization like, okay, these people are going to work on the interface part, these people are going to work on the database part, these people are going to work on this piece, then what's going to happen is you're going to build what barriers between the two, and then, right, the software will be grouped that way, right? So if, you know, part of data science is computer science and developing software, then why not this, right? And so there was this, you know, manifesto for Agile data science. So you have to, you know, you start doing this project, right? An assignment, like, okay, now the columns don't match up, and this doesn't happen, and now you've got drop-off zones instead of, right? You have to figure out what data says, and you may have to then investigate it and figure out what's going on. Right? Yeah, like, you know, for here we're just doing assignments, but you know, if you work in this field, you're going to be doing things, and so you need to communicate those results. Like teams, you know, source control systems, using particularly Notebook, you have to be careful to organize it because it's so easy. I mean, Python's easy to just build type here, type there, and then it becomes this unorganized mess. It is so easy to do, right? The language doesn't help you at all. At least Java, you have to have a class, right? And another class, right? But Python is like, well, you can do whatever you want. If you have to be more organized and realize that people are going to need to share your work with other people. You know, it's an experiment, right? When you build software, we don't talk about doing experiments, right? I mean, some people talk about doing exploratory things, like, oh, I have no idea how to do this, right? So let's just do a little project over here, just try it out, just try it out. That's sort of an experiment. But in general, like, no, we build software, we don't do experiments. But here you're trying to analyze the data and figure out what it tells you. Right? I mean, look, I just went through it. It's like, oh, the drop-off, zones, right? Oh, what can we look at? Oh, look, we got a negative distance. That and then that can't be good, right? And then you got 8 zones next to another zone where the distance was 0. That's telling us that the data that distance data is not accurate, right? It's just not accurate. Now, if need be, we could go and try and figure out what the zones are and figure out. I mean, it could be zones are these crazy shapes, and they all do touch zone 7, and they went from, but you think they measure from the center to the center, right? And maybe zones are 10 feet by 10 feet. Okay, you don't know, right? Although on the other data set, when I looked at distances, the smallest distance was 0.01 mile, right? Well, I assume they're miles, I didn't look it up. But how far is 0.01 mile? Well, a mile is 5,280 feet, right? And so 0.01 mile is 52 feet, which is probably linked to this building. You do wonder why people are taking a taxi that short distance, and it could be an inaccurate measurement, but how could, right? So then it becomes how you're measuring distance. Well, if we're getting latitude and longitude, the question is, how are we getting that measurement, right? If you're doing it on a phone, the phones aren't quite as accurate as regular GPS unit. I would assume that taxis probably have a GPS unit if you're trying to keep track of where they are, but you never know, right? You have to investigate. What is the data telling us, right?
Is the data set just saying the start point and the end point, and doesn't give anything about the actual distance driven?
If we look at the data set, earlier ones give you latitude and longitude, the start point and end point, and the distance traveled.
So if it has distance traveled, you can take out like things like people driving a taxi to the store and then come back, right? Because those round trips have 0, coordinate distance, but because the end is the start, right? But they'll have a distance that should be correct.
Presumably. But again, how do we find that out, right? We'll have look for places where we have the starting point and end points are the same and they're the distance, right? Yeah, most of your time is really spent down here, right? Just right, what's a critical path, right? What's our task in assignment 2? Our task is to measure performance, right? So we want some collect data and do some operations on it to try and, right? So do you want to spend a week and a half analyzing the data to figure out what we should do with shape files? Is probably not a good idea, right? Yeah, and when I started, coming up with solutions for assignment 1, right? You start saying, okay, we can just select this, like that. But eventually, like, I'm going to step back, and what are we doing? And, oh, I'm taking this data frame, and I want to then count how many things are in the group are, right? So, create a function to do that. Start going higher level. Eventually, made it easier to do the rest of the assignment. So that's sort of, every once in a while, I sort of throw in material which is not strictly speaking Spark, because like it gets boring to talk about this over and over and over again. So we've talked about Spark. We talked about how it's set up to run on notebooks. We talked about how we can actually run standalone on your machine. Sometime later, I'll talk about how I actually do it on AWS, but I don't want to do that now because then you'll get confused about how to do it, and then you'll think you don't need it now. We talked about various operations we can do on data frames, and there's online documentation which they do several things. One is the API. Here's all the things you can do on all methods on a data frame you can do in Spark, right? And they also have basically tutorials or here's this and this, here's what we can do. Now Spark does have support machine learning algorithms. And again, we run into the old Spark over here and the new shiny Spark over here, right? And then the terminology gets a little confusing because the old Spark, which is RDDs, right? That the machine learning algorithms come in the package spark.machinelearninglib. And then when they create the data frames, they had to redo those algorithms to work on data frames, and they put those libraries in spark.ml. The confusing part is that they call both of those libraries as the Spark Machine Learning Library, or the MLlib. And so when you say Spark MLlib, are you talking about the RDD libraries, or are you talking about the whole package, right? Now, the Spark people, when they talk about machine MLlib, they're talking about the whole package. Everyone else says machine lib is that one, and ML is this one, right? Where who's talking? The old one is fixed, right? They finished it in Spark 2, and Spark 3, and prior to Spark 2 was finished. In Spark 2, they created, ML, and they said that, the old library is only in maintenance. I did come across a reference saying in Spark 3.0, the spark.mllib functions are going to go away, but when you look at the preview document, the documentation of the preview of 3.0, it hasn't. So that just could be they just didn't update the documentation. Even though it's the old Spark, I want to talk about a little bit. One of the problems is, an example we saw last time, I wanted this counter. How do I share that across everyone, right? So it's a common issue to think about. And in the old Spark version, they did it with broadcast and accumulators. Now to broadcast, we declare a variable we broadcast, and then all the worker nodes could read it. They couldn't change it, but they could read the value. And the accumulator is just the opposite, right? The workers could change it, they could modify it, but they couldn't read it. And the master could read it. Right? So if we wanted the master, we wanted to compute this counter, right? We could make it a accumulator, and then all the workers could increment it. And then when they're done, the master could read the value. And the key thing here is that is, we create the Spark session, right? That's what we do for the new shiny Spark, but the old Spark, we need the Spark context. Right. And so, yeah, I'm saying, give me, right, broadcast, right. And now, right, the key thing here is I'm doing this, right, that map is being done on the worker nodes. And so that read, right, that broadcast.value is being done on the worker nodes so they can read that value, right? And that value, right, I set core size up here, and right, and I create my broadcast variable. I give it the value I want. And so now broadcast.value is 35. Right. It's so nice to be able to draw on the screen. Right? I'll probably do too much for a while. Right? What? I'm not very good in my right hand. And then we can create more complex types to actually do it. And this example, accumulator. Right, again, we're getting that Spark context because it's the old Spark. I'm setting the initial value to the accumulator, and then my function. I can now actually access the accumulator and write to it. I can't read to it. But it does show too, right, the problem of, once we break the program up into multiple machines, right, multiple nodes, we have to keep track of where the code is being run, right? Because, this is all being run on the master node, right? This is the master node, right? This for each, right?
So the accumulator only has one method value.
Right.
So add.
You'd have to, that's all you could do, yeah.
Because I can see, yeah, so specifying only add probably solve your currency issues. But
Well, the problem is so much currency because they're
separate.
separate machines, separate threads, right? The problem is how do you get that result back?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And then, of course, you have to make sure that the order in which you do those operations doesn't matter, right? You have no idea when each node is going to do this, call that operation. Luckily, addition does that, right? Yeah. Like I said, right, we got the two versions of machine learning on Spark. And it contains, the standard sort of regression and clustering and sort of standard algorithms. And there's, when you go to the documentation, right, there is the programming guides, it goes into detail about how what it does, what you can do. But once we get to the point where we're doing this, this documentation is going to be your friend. It's the source, right? And then the API documents, right, will give you, there's one for Java, one for Python. The documentation is different for the two. And of course, when you download Spark, it comes with a bunch of examples. And right, you just go to your Spark install directory example / source main little Python. And there's various examples, different types of examples. This one's for machine learning. And that's a list of all of them. They do tend to be a bit more complicated than you'd like because examples are not there for a course. But, the course, you're like, okay, I'm just going to show you just how I do this one thing. And they go, no, we want to show you all the features. And so I'm going to set it up so you can, it's like this piece or that piece. And so there's this big, you can input command line flag to do this. And so it's more complicated, but it does show you how to do a lot of things. And so, we came across Pearson's correlation coefficient before, right? So here's my example I created. And then I created a CSV file, right? Then you have to read it in, and then I get a data frame, and then I can eventually call that correlation coefficient and get the answer back, right? And the sanity check, it should be 1 because it's a purely linear function. And then if we add this constant, right, then we get it's basically a flat line, right? And so there's a relationship, but it can't compute it. And let's see. We can probably stop here because I'm not going to be too interested in this for a while. I'm minded on other things. So I hope this grand experiment going online works out fairly well, but you're gonna have to be patient. I'm sure we'll need to make adjustments as we go along.
You figured out what you can do for the midterm for this class?
Yeah, I'll give you some problems to solve and say, start on Thursday and end on a week later. I don't think, I mean, given online tests, like, I mean, you have no idea what's going on the other end, right? So like, Blackboard allows you to have time tests, right? It starts this time, ends this time. Yeah, it doesn't solve anything. It creates problems because what happens, you get some panic student who's like, the network connection goes down and like, oh, now what do I do? And
Last time seeing you at dinner.
Go to the next class.
Oh, yeah. Besides that. It was fun. Glad you guys are graduating.